You're welcome. This is Radio Maria 107.3 FM. My name is Magdalene Kasuku. We are at Mwangaza Spiritual Center with Bishop Rodrigo Major, a Jesuit, the Vicar Apostolic Emeritus of Sodo in Ethiopia, and we are focusing on the 6th Beatitude. The 6th Beatitude talks about, "Blessed are the pure in heart, they will see God." Welcome very much, Bishop. So the first question is really the fundamental notion of this beatitude is purity of heart. Can you explain the deep meaning of this notion?
Yes, it's a very important question. The notion of purity in the Bible, especially in the Old Testament, was a notion of things that are impure. From outside, if you eat something impure, you get the impurity. You are contaminated. But Jesus came to correct this notion. Impurity is not outside. It's not the things that are impure. It's the intention, it's the way of looking at them that makes impurity. And impure in this sense means mixture. You have an impure intention. Heart is here the same as intention, because the intentions come from our heart. A pure intention is an intention that has no other mixture of other intentions. If I invite you to my home for a lunch or for a celebration, I do that out of friendship. That is my intention. I don't have other intentions. But I may mix intentions, and I may invite you because you are a very important person. Once you are in my home, I have the intention to ask you for a help or for a loan of money or something like that. That is not the pure intention, because you have several intentions at the same time. For example, explaining if, for example, a watch, if I say that this rich watch is pure gold, means there is no mixture of other metal. It's only gold. If it is just a coat of gold, I cannot say this is pure gold. The same happens with our intentions. When I act, my motivation has to be pure. That is, the only way is I do the will of God. I do this because it is not sinful, is not forbidden, is allowed, is according to the law, and at the same time is pleasant to God. Purity of intention or purity of heart is to do whatever I do for the sake of the glory of God, to please God, to do His will. Even if it is something unpleasant, even if it is something very difficult for me to do, but I do that, I overcome my feelings. My feelings are not motivations, they are just feelings. My real motivation is to do the will of God. If I have double intention, that is the danger. I try, as we say in English, to kill two birds with one stone. Yeah. In the spiritual life, in religious life, we cannot do that. We cannot kill two things, God and someone else, with one stone. Nobody can serve two lords. Jesus was very clear. Nobody can serve two bosses, because if he pleases one, the other is displeased. So one Lord, one service, one intention. And that is why when we examine what is the root of our sins, is our second intentions. Our second intentions betray us and lead us to do the contrary thing that we had in mind at the beginning.
Very interesting, really thinking about second intention. So usually when we say pure hearts, we refer to sexual purity, or that is to say chastity. Is this beatitude of Jesus addressed only to the consecrated religious men and women? Is it also addressed to lay people, married people who, for example, do not take the vow of chastity?
Very good. You are very right. People, in my experience, when they read the purity of heart, immediately they go to the realm of sexual purity. I mean, even they accuse themselves of impure thinking, impure images, like that, always related to sex. This is only part of it. Only part of it. It's also that because sex itself is not impure. Sexual activity is a grace of God. We all exist thanks to sexual activity of our parents. How can we say that sex is impure? What is impure is the way of practice sex, the way to approach sex, not in the way of God, for the purpose God created our sexual faculties, but for our own pleasure, for our own egoism, or for other, even for business or for other things. So when we make other intentions, we make the use of sex impure. But as much as sex is a reality, it's a grace of God. A very good example of this is in the book of Genesis, after Adam and Eve disobeyed God by eating the forbidden fruit. They realized that they were naked. They were naked before. When they realized that they were naked, they were ashamed because their intentions changed, and that they were affected by the power of sin. And that is why, really, it is our way of looking at things that may be pure or impure. And that is why Jesus said, the one who looks at a woman with lust and bad intention has committed adultery in the heart, not in the body, but in the heart, because the purity of heart is purity in our intentions. That is a motivation that is parallel, is second agenda. It's like a second motivation in what we are doing.
Thank you, Bishop. The disciples of Jesus were not very observant of the rule of purity of their Jewish culture, and the Pharisees were scandalized about that Jesus seemed not to give so much attention to those rituals, for example, of washing hands or avoiding touching impure things. What was the attitude of Jesus regarding purity?
Very good. The Pharisees have multiplied the prescriptions about purity. And even animals you can eat, animals you cannot eat, etc. And if we analyze, these animals were forbidden not because the animals themselves were bad, but because they were like a mixture of two kinds of animals. For example, there are fish. The normal fish has squams, but there are fish also like the eel that looks like a serpent, and it has no squams. Is it a serpent or is it a fish? The identity is not clear, has double identity. It is declared impure because of that. The same happens with the pork. People say the pork is impure. Why? Because they can eat the goats, they can eat gazelles, they can eat the cows, they can eat all that because they are eaten of herb. They are herbivores. They are nourished by herb, and the hoof at the end of the foot is divided into two. The pork is not eating herb, is eating everything, but it has nothing to do with a goat. The difference is very big, but they have in common that the hoof is also divided. So the pork has no clear identity. The bat has no clear identity. Is it a mouse or is it a bird?
Yeah.
He flies like a bird. He has hair like a mouse and teeth like a mouse. All these things led them to declare these things impure. To touch them renders impure. Jesus said, no, this is not true. Impurity is not existing outside your heart. It is in your heart. It's not that touches the man that renders the man impure. The impurity of the man comes from his own heart. From the abundance of heart speaks the heart, the mouth. So that is why there was a change in the way, a cultural challenge of Jesus to his own culture. And because that is one of the items of the gospel in which Jesus, loving his culture, he was a Jewish, he realizes that in his cultures there were elements, attitudes that were not completely in accordance with the revelation of God. And he had the courage to criticize his own culture, which is very courageous and is an example how we also, loving our own culture and appreciating it, we have to examine and say, what is our culture calling impure and why? Is it our attitude or is the things that are impure?
Thank you very much, Bishop Rodrigo. Listener, we are going to take a short break, and when we come back, we'll continue to focus more on this sixth beatitude. Blessed are the pure in heart, they will see God. Welcome back. You're tuned to 107.3 FM Radio Maria Nairobi, Kenya. We are at Mwangaza Spiritual Center. My name is Magdalene Kasuku, hosting Bishop Rodrigo Major, a Jesuit, also the Vicar Apostolic Emeritus of Sodo in Ethiopia, and we are focusing on his great book, The Beatitudes, Roads to Happiness. Today we are focusing on the sixth beatitude, Blessed are the pure in hearts, they will see God. This book is available at the Catholic Bookshop. It is available both in English and also we have the Kiswahili version, so you can also have your copy and be able to understand better about the Beatitudes. Welcome back, Bishop. So we are focusing on your book, The Beatitudes, The Road to Happiness. And in this book, you're actually distinguishing the right intention and the pure intention. Could you give us some examples that can illustrate the difference between these two?
Yeah, very good. Right intention means the intention of doing something provided is not sinful. It's like to put a filter in my intention. I am free, I know, but my freedom puts a filter. I do always whatever is allowed by the law of God or by the civil law. I don't want to break any law. That is my limit. If you tell me to do something against the law, I refuse. That is to have right intention. Now, this is a very good filter and it is necessary because we have to take before we do something or we do a program to do something, we have to realize, is it right? Is it lawful? Is it allowed according to the law of the church or according to the law of the country? And if it is, I can go ahead. Now, this seems the first filter to purify my intention. That is very important because If everybody would do that, we would have a very peaceful society in the world. All the crimes are going to do which is not lawful, which is not legal. In front of God, this is very good, but is not enough. It's not enough. Why? Because I may have in front of me a choice, not between good and evil, but between two things that are good. That happens very often. So, if it is between good and evil, according to the right intentions, I choose what is right, I reject what is evil. But according to the pure intention, if I have in front of me a choice, for example, a boy or a girl are making a retreat and they are thinking, discerning whether I enter religious life or I enter the seminary or I get married. Both things are good. Both things are the will of God. Even marriage is a sacrament. It's something blessed by God, by the church. So I cannot apply only the right intention. There is nothing sinful there. I have to apply another, the purity of intention. What is the way in which I feel that I can serve God better in marriage or in consecrated life, according to my vocation, my qualities, my context, etc. And at that moment I reflect, that is called a spiritual discernment, and I discern for one or the other with pure intention. So the pure intention is moving the person to do something for the greater service to God, what is more pleasant to God. It's not because it's not sin or is allowed. You may think that the second level is much better, of course, and that the first level is very simple, but it's not so very simple. The first level, to avoid evil and to choose good, is very important, and it is because of that many people were killed for their faith in history. They were invited to deny their faith, which is bad. It's a sin. And instead of doing that sin, they preferred not to deny their faith, and they were killed. So even at the level of right intention, we may have martyrs. I think in my mind now, the group of the university students in Garissa that were killed some years ago. They were there. The Muslim group that entered knew that they were separated from the Muslims, that they were all Christians, Catholics and other Christian communities. And if any one of them would have lifted their hand saying, I want to become a Muslim, they would have forgiven him. None of them had that idea. By the grace of God, all persisted in confessing we are Catholics. And they were killed. And we have people who are really in heaven. So, right intention is not a little thing, but pure intention requires more generosity and more discernment, because it is the choice between two good things. What is the best thing for me to serve God?
Thank you, Bishop. It's quite interesting when you're talking about, pure intention and right intention. So like, if I give an example, if I go to Mass because it is a Sunday and I feel it's an obligation, Sunday has come and I want to go for Mass, but in my heart, for example, I'm feeling like it's a burden, I'm not feeling like I really want to go to church, can I say that I have a pure intention in attending Mass at that time?
Okay, it's a good example because it is a case in which I go to Mass because of a religious motivation, and I believe that it's the commandment of God and of the Church. I don't like it. I don't do that by pleasure, but I do it all the same. What is that? It's a mixture not of motivations, but it's a mixture of one motivation to please God and to keep the commandment of the Church, and of feelings. My feelings accompany me. My feeling is a feeling of making an effort, making something heavy. I do it, but I don't like it very much. It's not according to my feeling. If I were at home doing something with the friends, I would be enjoying myself much more. This is called a parallel or concomitant feeling. It's not a motivation. I may feel that difficult, but my behavior follows my intention. I attend the Mass. I make an effort. I make a sacrifice. We say that. If I make a sacrifice, that means something that I don't like, and I do it voluntarily and freely because of God, because of the other people. So, for example, a mother, very nice to have a baby at home, a newborn, but the newborns at midnight start crying. At 1 o'clock in the night they start crying. The mother has to wake up and give them to nurse him, because the baby has no timetable. When they are hungry, they cry. The mother is not getting angry with the baby, but the mother is feeling the pinch of the difficulty. Maybe after that she could not sleep again, etc. It's something unpleasant, humanly speaking, unpleasant. This feeling does not take away the purity of intention. The mother does that because of love.
Thank you, Bishop. We are going to take a short break, and when we come back, we'll focus more on this sixth beatitude. Blessed are the pure in heart, they will see God. Welcome back. You're listening to 107.3 FM. My name is Magdalene Kasuko. We are in Mwangaza Spiritual Center talking to Bishop Rodrigo Major, a Jesuit, the Vicar Apostolic Emeritus of Sodo in Ethiopia. And today we are focusing on the sixth beatitude. Blessed are the pure in heart, they will see God. Just before the short break, we were focusing on two things, the right intention and the pure intention. And so, Bishop, this beatitude has a promise that is attached to it. They will see God. So the fulfillment of this promise seems to be only after death, because while we are alive on earth, for sure we cannot see God. Is this interpretation correct?
Well, in a literal sense, it is correct. We cannot see God in this life with our corporal eyes. There have been exceptional cases of great saints that have had apparitions, but that is very rare. And in fact, it's not God most of the time. It's apparition of Our Lady or for a saint or something like that. Nobody can see God and live. Even Moses wanted to see God in the book of Exodus, chapter 33, and God told him, no, nobody, you cannot see my face, because nobody can see God and live. So, meaning, you will see God face to face when we will be in eternal life. And we will be known as we are known. Now, we know Him. But, on the other hand, seeing God in the Gospel, especially in the Gospel of John, has another meaning. It's a seeing of faith. Seeing with the eyes of the Spirit. Seeing the presence of God, where other people do not see it. Seeing the providence of God, where other people say, oh, this is pure chance, pure good luck. But the people who have faith have a way of reading human life that are ready to see the action of God through human things, not necessarily miracles, but really the action of God, the goodness of God, the grace of God. When I see a good example, and I am touched by a person that is helping the poor voluntarily, freely, without salary, etc., doing voluntary work even during the night, helping refugees, etc., I see these people are moved by God. God is there. I don't see God himself, but I see the action of God. Now, this is especially attached to this beatitude. Why? Because in order to read human reality with the eyes of faith, I need a pure heart. I need a heart that is looking for the will of God all the time. A heart that is oriented to do the will of God in everything. It's like the compass. The compass has this needle. You move the compass, the needle shows always the north. Always. In whatever position you put it. The same is the pure heart. It's like the person may be in a joy or maybe in a disease, the person is oriented to God. Like, for example, in the book of Job, I give you an example. Job was enjoying life, was rich, he had all the comfort, and he was praising God. God is putting him to the test, is allowing Satan to test him. And he loses everything, even his health. And his reaction is, God has given, God has taken away, blessed be the name of the Lord. It's a different way. His wife was even very angry and telling him, curse God. He is mistreating you. This is not fair. You are a good man, and God is punishing you. And Job corrects his wife, said, shut up, don't curse God. God is good, God has given, God has taken, blessed be the name of God. This I have even seen in people, good Christians, for example, that are terminally sick. They know they have no treatment. They know they are going to die of cancer, for example. They accept that with faith, with a pure heart. They even offer their sickness for the peace of the world. You visit them, they are peaceful. Those who are more in anxiety are those who visit them. But the sick person is like seeing God, seeing the invisible, seeing things that cannot be seen with the eyes of the body, but with God. And I must help a bit of an anecdote. In the year 60s, early 60s, when the first astronauts were launched to the space, the first astronaut was Yuri Gagarin, a Russian one. He did not go to the moon, but he was put into orbit around the world very high, 150 miles over the Earth. And he came back safely. It was a great achievement. Russia was very proud because they were the first, before the Americans did that. So they interviewed him at the TV, and they wanted to use him for propaganda of communism, atheistic communism. And they asked him, Mr. Gagarin, you have been in heaven. You are the first one to go there. Have you ever seen God around? Is God there high? And Gagarin replied, no, I have paid attention. I have seen the stars. I have seen the space, but I have never seen God. And then the interviewer said, well, now it is clear God is not in heaven as the Christians say. So that passed, but 2 days later, the superior or the monastery of the Holy Trinity gave a response in the newspaper, very small, a paid advertisement paid. And he said this sentence, I understand very well why Mr. Yuri Gagarin could not see God in heaven. Because if you don't meet him on earth, you will never see him in heaven. That is the meaning of this beatitude, to see God with the eyes of our spirit.
Very, very powerful, actually. When you look at the letter of Titus, the Apostle Paul wrote that for the pure, everything is pure. And this is taken from Titus chapter 1, from verse 15. How do you understand this statement?
I understand this sentence precisely in the way I mentioned before, to correct the vision of purity of the Jews. There were things impure, but for the one who has purity in the intention and in the way of looking at things, there are no impure things. There are just things. There, of course, medically speaking, there are contaminated with bacterial. In the COVID, we were recommended to wash all the time, because scientifically there was bacteria, there was a virus there, but not evil, it's a virus. Now, even a virus producing bad effects and even death, in fact, has good effects. Virus produces much more solidarity. The COVID produces good fruits. Many people show their mercy in the time of the COVID. So we cannot say this is evil, this is impure. No. We have to be careful because it's physiologically contaminated, not impure. Everything is pure, is good. And the basis of this is the book of Genesis. In the readings of Easter, on the night of Saturday night, the Paschal Vigil, the first reading is the reading of creation, the book of Genesis. And in the book of Genesis, at the end of every day, is the same sentence. That was the end of the day, and God saw that this was good, end of first day. And God saw that this was good, end of the second day. Everything created is good and comes from God. And that is why it is wrong to call bad things is our intention, is our way of looking. And that is why they said, for the pure of heart, everything is pure.
Thank you. Actually, the sixth beatitude comes at a very timely period. Blessed are the pure in hearts, they will see God. How do we relate this to the joy of Easter?
Of course, the joy of Easter is a Christian joy, is the joy of resurrection. And in fact, the disciples had no joy at all. They were discouraged, they were sad, they were desperate. And they had no hope, even if Jesus had hinted that he will resurrect at the third day, they were not, their hearts were like blind. They could not see. And even there is a passage in Luke chapter 24 where the disciples of Emmaus are going home, and Jesus joins them. They cannot recognize him with their eyes of the body because their heart is blinded by sadness, by the lack of faith and the lack of hope. But once they invite him for supper and he blessed the bread, they recognize him in the prayer of the blessing, breaking the bread. Their eyes were open and they can see God. That is, one of the things of the joy of Easter is that purified by the good sacrament of reconciliation and renewed in our faith in the resurrection of Christ, we may recover a more positive way of seeing our human life, even our challenges, even our difficulties, even our problems and conflicts, in the light of a joy that is superior, that is a greater joy. The joy of the Beatitudes is not just a joy that is superficial, it's the joy of an ice cream or a sweet or a very good lunch. It's a joy that is more solid, and we see that. And that is, for example, the joy of the grandparents, that their joy is not to receive gifts, material, but to joy the family united. That is invisible. Unity, communion, fraternity in itself is invisible, but we see it in the joy of Easter.
Thank you very much. You've been listening to Bishop Rodrigo Major, a Jesuit, the Vicar Apostolic Emeritus of Sodo in Ethiopia. Today we've actually focused on the 6th Beatitude, blessed are the pure in hearts, they will see God. And it is coming from the book that Bishop wrote, The Beatitudes, Road to Happiness. This book has already been translated into the Kiswahili version. The Kiswahili version is called Heri Njia ya Kufikisha Furaha Tele. And it's a very good book for small Christian communities, for our families back home, where we take a deep look into the Beatitudes. You can get it at the Catholic Bookshop in Nairobi, and definitely you'll get more details about the Beatitudes that we are focusing on. I want to take this opportunity to thank you all for joining us on Radio Maria 107.3 FM. Until next time, when we look at the 7th Beatitude, I've been your host, Magdalene Kasuku, and we've been here at Mwangaza Spiritual Center. Thank you.